All right, y'all ready to float over your estimating process? We're back with our next impact drill session. Today, we are focusing on concrete estimating so we can strike that sweet spot of accuracy and efficiency. My name is Jake Elmhorst, and I'm the Academy Event Specialist, also an on-screen takeoff and quick bid product specialist here at Construct Connect. I'll be your host for today's session again. Just a couple of quick reminders. Ask those questions by commenting on the videos, and to be able to comment on those videos, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that way you can get updated on all of our new videos and make sure that you're staying up to date with everything that we are doing here at Construct Connect and getting those new training videos that our team is putting out. Yeah, make sure to hit that subscribe button, put those questions into the chat or into the comments throughout the session. I'll try to address those if I can throughout the session. Otherwise, I'll usually have a little bit of time at the end. So let's take a look at what we have. Let's see, not hearing anything. All right. Oh, never mind. We're all good. But yeah, what we're looking at today. So last month we did some takeoff in on-screen takeoff, and so we're going to connect that to quick bid. We'll look at some assemblies, bringing in all of those items, material and labor, into quick bid. Then we're going to jump over to a bid that I already have fully priced, so that way we can look at some of the material pricing, labor pricing, just making sure that things look right. And then we'll get into talking about some reports and proposals, looking at how to break some of that down with our bid areas. And then we set up some zones last time. We're going to talk about those zones. And then, like I said, we'll see how much time we have for those questions throughout today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up on-screen takeoff. So last time we went through, did some of this takeoff, and then you can see I set up my zones here. So we'll go ahead and make sure to do that in the fully priced bid as well, but just looking at some of what we did in our session last time. So we went in, did some takeoff, got our foundation, got our rebar, got our footers in there. So what we're going to do, I'm going to connect this to quick bid. So up at the top on my cover sheet, I'm going to go ahead and make sure to go to my price using, and this is where I'm going to connect that to QuickBid. So in that dropdown, QuickBid Interactive. Now, if you haven't already connected a bid from the database you're currently in, you'll need to choose the database by clicking on the magnifying glass over to the right. Now, since another bid in this database is already connected, it automatically pulls up that same database. You do want to make sure that you're keeping only one OST database connected to one QuickBid database. So always good that that automatically pops in there. So we're going to connect to QuickBid, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Just going to take a second there to go ahead and connect and get all of this information from on-screen takeoff over to QuickBid. So that is now connected, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull up QuickBid here. And so now I have this concrete job right here. This is the one that we were working in last time, all of the takeoff that we did there. So we're going to do a little bit of pricing in there, but I'm just going to jump back to OST and just show you something real quick with that. So let's say I have my, my 12 by 24 footer. I've got 2,621 square feet on that footer, and I'm going to go back to on-screen takeoff, and I'm going to look at my cast in place concrete, and I have my footer, and I'm just going to throw some more takeoff in here. Now you'll notice this number is different than what I just saw in QuickBid, because this is only one page. QuickBid is adding all of those pages together. Now when I go back to QuickBid, I now have more takeoff in there. So my total has added everything that I just did in on-screen takeoff. Seeing that, we're able to directly connect those numbers from on-screen takeoff over to QuickBid. So you're not having to copy and paste numbers, manually typing any of that in. Those numbers are going directly from on-screen takeoff over to QuickBid as soon as that bid is connected, making sure that you're keeping both of those platforms open while you're working in that bid once they are connected. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at a couple things here. So I'm going to go ahead and let's talk about that continuous footer. So I'm going to open that up. And if I already have some of my assemblies set up, or if when you purchase one of our databases, there will be some assemblies in there. So that way you don't have to go in and do this all on your own. So I'm going to go ahead and click on assembly down on the bottom left. And this is going to give me all of my assembly options. So I'm going to go to my cast in place concrete, and I've got my continuous footer assembly with 7 different items in that assembly. When I double click on that, all of that is going to come into that condition. So I don't have to manually go in and do each one of those. Now, the very first time that you come in, you could, by yourself go in and select each individual item. So I could add a line item. I could, click on my magnifying glass. That's going to open my whole item database. And then I can go through and pick those particular items that I want to go into that item. So opening up my item database. Now, we're not going to get into every nitty gritty detail today, but like I said, if you have questions, throw them into the chat. Try to address any of those that we can throughout our session today. But looking at what just came in with that assembly, I have my excavation in here. I've got my edge forms in there. Then I have my labor for setting those forms. Then I have my rebar because we're laying that rebar in there. We have this one set to layers. So it's just taking that linear feet and multiplying by the number of pieces of rebar, or the sticks of rebar throughout that footer. Then I have my labor for my rebar. I got my stirrups throughout there, and then I've got my placing my concrete, and throughout the concrete and my labor for those forms, or those footers. So all of that information is being brought in without me having to go through and pick, okay, I need trenching. Okay, I need forms. Okay, I need to labor for my forms. So setting up those assemblies is going to save you a lot of time pricing each of those items. Now, down in the bottom right, that number is the total, essentially total cost to me for the material and the labor, because that is your exact material cost and your labor cost. Now, the number up on the top left, this is going to be with your taxes, your burden, your overhead, your profit, all that added in. Now, may not seem like a whole lot added on right now. We're gonna check that. We're gonna see, does that make sense? Do we have the right numbers? We'll get to that in a minute. But that number up on the top left is going to be the total, essentially what you're charging for that. So bottom right, your cost, and then what is being charged. So we'll go back in and verify some of those numbers and make sure that everything makes sense. So that was our footer. Let's open up our concrete foundation. So I'm going to double click on that, and that's going to open up that condition. Again, I've got nothing in here. I could go in and one by one select those items, but if we go in and set up those assemblies, that's going to make it a lot quicker for us each time. So I'm going to go to assembly and go to my cast in place, and I've got my concrete foundation. So you can double click it or click it once and then hit select, and that's going to pull in all of those items. And again, I've got my edge forms, got my setting forms for my labor, got my vapor barrier, then I've got my concrete, and I've got my labor for pouring the concrete, and then I have my forms, or my labor for my forms on the perimeter, got my final grading, and I've got my finish, so floating my slabs. So now, if you're missing items here, if you need more than what is showing here, we can definitely come in and add other items. If you need to figure out your excavation, if you need more than so we have the one, we've got our 4-inch our cover for our gravel. So if you need something else, if you need sand in there as well, any of those items you can add in here. So instead of, like if you don't have it in your database now, instead of recreating a whole new item, we always recommend duplicating one of the items that is very similar and then making adjustments as you need to get that into that item. So if you have questions, need to see something else, throw that into the comments. But yeah, we've got, several items that we brought in with those assemblies. So that way we don't have to, manually bring each one of those items in individually. And let's do one more. Let's take a look at some curb and gutter. So I'm going to open up my 6-inch curb and gutter item down here. And again, we're going to go to my assemblies. And we're going to go to our site concrete this time. And there's my curb and gutter condition. Go ahead and bring that in. So you're seeing, very similar items each of these times. We've got our forms, then our labor, got our concrete, placing our curb and gutter, just like we had, for pouring our slabs. And then we've got our strip forms. So a lot of the same information is going to be going into these with concrete, but just, modifying each as we go for each individual item. Again, making adjustments where you need. I can quickly change the PSI of my concrete if I need to here, so I can change the size of my forms if I want. So all of that is set up in the item, and then I can, make those adjustments here on the condition detail. So I've gone in and added some of those assemblies, and I know we typically we'll talk about some of our chained items as well. So like if I bring in one item, may bring in a couple other items. Here with assemblies, a little more efficient, where it's bringing in all the items that you need to for each of those different scenarios. So I'm going to switch over to my other bid here, and this one is going to be fully priced out. So that's just going to save us from having to go through and price everything in that other bid. But essentially you would have gone through and done the same thing. You open up each of your conditions, you bring in your assembly, and then those items are priced out. So as we look down here, everything does have a price on the right side. And so now let's look at how to analyze some of this pricing now that we have all our material, our labor added in. I'm going to go ahead and now again, we're not going to go through every one of these, but I can put some equipment in here if I need to. I can put just any other cost in here, that if just anything else that isn't based off from my takeoff, at being able to add some of this information in. Now, when I get to the markups tab, this is where I'm going to do some analyzing of my bid. Now, looking at, right now I'm on my base bid. Over to the right, I have this pie chart. That's going to give me just a quick breakdown of all of the pricing. And I just saw a question come in. Can you show how to duplicate an item in an assembly? Yeah, great question. Let me jump back and do that. So I'm going to go back to my conditions. And let me go and open, really any of these up. So let's go to my continuous footing. And so if I need, another item, kind of like my rebar by ton, or, really any of these. So what I'm going to do is if I click on the magnifying glass, that's going to open up my master item list. Now it's going to open right up to that item that I was on, so that way I don't have to, search through and find that. Once I'm on my master item list, then down at the bottom, I'm going to hit that duplicate. That's going to create a copy of that item, and I'm going to see that pop up in a second here. And what it did is it just duplicated everything all the same except the code. It just adds that _1. Anytime you add a new item, every item has to have a different code. So it's going to add that on there so that way it has a unique code. Now, up to you from there if you want to give it a new code, or if if it's just another rebar item that is very similar, you could just add something at the end, to make it a little bit different. So just depends on what that item is. If you want to give it a whole new code, or just leave that _ in there. But the description could be the same. Likely you want to change it because it's a different item. So you would give it a different name. Just verify all the information that was in there from the one that you copied it from. So this one is just a material item. it has the cost code of rebar, and it is under the reinforcing materials for my type. And then you go to the calculation tab. Is this calculating the way that you want it to? This one's using quantity 2, using the standard formula. Over here to the right, we are ignoring the horizontal and the continuous, and then the rows and layers is set to 1. If you want to change the section of that, or if you were to add labor onto this, you would need to give it a labor cost code. Then as we move over to the sizing tab, we check how this item is set up. If we're good with that, we leave it as is, or we change those styles and sizes. And that's where I said that it makes sense to find an item that is very similar, so you don't have to completely change every one of these. It may just be 1 or 2 things that you need to update instead of going in and setting every single thing in a new condition. And then going to your material cost tab, making adjustments there if there is a different cost. And then if there is a labor, if this has labor on it, then you would go to the labor cost tab and make adjustments there. Now, when I click OK, we're going to have that new item. Now, when I double click that, it replaced the item. So if I needed a new line item in there, then I would hit the plus, and then I would be able to either just start typing it in. So here I could just type in rebar H, and then it brings in the other item. So then I have 2, in this case, 2 of the same item because I just duplicated it. But you can see that I have the one with the _1 and then the original rebar item that I did. So if you need a very similar item, you're going to go to your master database, duplicate that item, make the adjustments that need to be made, and then bring that into. Now, this is just in this condition detail. If I need to save this as an assembly now, I would then click assembly again, and then I would click new over on the right side. When I click on new, it now opens up kind of almost the exact same thing. And I kind of pulled this down so you can see. This was the condition I was working in. And now this is the master assembly. So kind of pay attention up on the top left. It's telling you what that is. And now this is my master assembly. And I'm just going to type assembly on here. So that way when it saves, you'll see, the difference there. So now when I click close, I just added that second one. So this is the one that I just saved, and you can see that I have 8 items instead of 7 items on that one. So once you've made that adjustment, now you could go in and modify the original assembly. So I was on a condition and I resaved it, or I can come into the original assembly and click change and make my adjustment there. And then I'm not creating another assembly. But if you need different assemblies with those new items, then you make a new assembly and then just rename that accordingly. All right. Hopefully that helped to answer that question there. Feel free to throw more questions in and put them in there if we need to take a look at anything else. All right. So we were on the markups tab, and we were looking at just kind of analyzing our pricing. And so this is going to give me just a good overall pricing and percentage breakdown of my bid. So essentially I'm looking at, I've got 60, 36%. So my material is 60% of my bid. My labor is 36%. So kind of typically what we're looking for, that's about opposite of what it should be. It should be about 60-40 labor over material. Now, everybody has their different numbers that they're looking for, how they should be pricing that. But that's telling me I need to look at my material costs. I need to look at my labor, my wages, and see if everything makes sense before I finalize this bid, because something seems to be off to me. So I'm going to go to my materials tab. And this is where I can just check all of my pricing for all my materials. I can use my e-quotes to send out for a quote from my supplier and get that updated pricing directly from my supplier. I'm not going to run through everything on e-quotes. We have great training video walking you through that process. And then we'll talk about it at the end. If you need to reach out to our team, we can definitely walk you through that. But make sure that if you're not using e-quotes, check that out, get some information on how to get that updated pricing for each of your bids, or just just kind of, every now and then to make sure that you have the most recent pricing. But looking at this page, I'm going to go ahead and click on this total column. That's going to sort my my most expensive items to the top. So our famous Greg Duico likes to call that "show me the money." So we want to see where are we spending the most money in this bid, making sure that that pricing is correct. So looking at my concrete, I'm spending $58,000 on my 3,000 psi concrete, and this is $72 a cubic yard. And I'm like, yeah, that's not right. So I can just type in there and put what that current price is per cubic yard, and that's going to update it. And now we're at about 100,000 for my 3,000 psi. Now looking at my 5,000 PSI, I'm going to throw a number in there. Now, I could still be off on those, but pretty sure those numbers were pretty low that we had in there, but go ahead and make updates to those. So that is going to update my pricing of those couple items. Now, this is where you would typically use the e-quotes to send that off, get all of your updated pricing. But if you know those prices off the top of your head, go in and make that updated, that pricing changes to each of those materials. So once you've gone through and verified that, then I always recommend rounding all of your units because you're typically not going to order 799.81 cubic yards of concrete. You're going to order 800 or maybe even more than that, just depending if you want a little bit more waste factor. So quickest way to do that, right click, and then you're going to do round all to nearest container. So it's going to round every one of these items, and it's going to, if it's 0.49 and down, and it has waste factor, it'll round down, or if it's 0.5 or there is not enough waste factor, it will round up. So we're going to go ahead and click round to nearest container. Just getting that warning, can't undo this, can't go back. And I was at 272, went up to 273. So didn't go up too much, $1,000, but still that's $1,000 that I wouldn't have been accounting for if I hadn't rounded each of those items. So I have all of those rounded. Now I'm going to go ahead and move over to my labor tab and take a look at that. And I can take a look at just making sure that all the work that is being completed, I have the correct production rate on these. I have the correct wage type listed. I can, update the wage type if I want to switch from, union to open, or, if I have different regions that I'm working in and, I need to switch that wage type, I can switch that. So that just dropped my labor price from 91,000 to 47,000. So union to open makes a big difference there, just depending on what you want that to be set to, making those adjustments and seeing where you're at. Again, changing that production rate if you need to. Now, where I'm really going to see the change on the payroll tab, now in this case, I'm going to see the change because looking at all of these, those wages again are pretty low. So I'm going to just double click, and that's going to open up all of my payroll classes. Now, again, pay attention to what it says at the top. This is only for this bid. These are my payroll classes for this bid. So I am not changing my master database right now. This is, like I said, this bid only, not my master database. If you want to update your master database, you need to make sure to go to master up on the top left and then payroll classes and make your update there. That doesn't automatically bring it into any current bid. That's for any new bid that you create after that. You can get it updated into your bid by clicking on bid and then refresh payroll wages. But just kind of pointing that out, we are looking at just this bid. So any changes I make are only on this current bid. I'm just going to go ahead and throw some higher wages in here just so we make sure that we have that updated. And I'm going to then use my copy button down here at the bottom to copy all of these numbers. And then I'm going to hit next. And now I'm looking at my concrete labor, and I'm just going to paste these in here just to quickly update these numbers. Ideally, you would, be making sure that those wages matched what they should be for your crew members. But I just want to get a quick update because I knew all of my wages were pretty low. I want to make sure that they make a little bit more sense. Now, once I've gone through, all of those. I go ahead and click OK. And I now see those new base wages for all of my crew members. And now I'm going to go back to my markups tab. And now we're looking a little closer to where we should be. Now we're about a 50-50 split. Still, probably a little bit low. Might want to verify and make sure that everything is where they need to be. But you're getting a good idea of, how that breakdown is coming in. Now, when I come down below, this is just analyzing those overall numbers. So I've got my material, all my material costs. This is based on all of my takeoff. Then I have my taxes added on top, got my overhead and my profit. Now looking at my labor, based on all the work that is being completed, got my taxes and burden added on top, and then my overhead and profit. So here I might want to put 10% on there instead of that 5%, 10% on there, and making my adjustments there. So getting that looking a little bit closer to where I might want that to be. So once I have gone through, I've analyzed everything, I've made sure that my material pricing is right, my payroll wages are right, my labor is good, then I can pull my reports and my proposals. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my reports. Now, when we were in on-screen takeoff, we set up our zones, and I'm going to pull on-screen takeoff back up and point that out so that way you can see where those numbers are coming from. So in on-screen takeoff, we had bid areas, and then we also had zones. So just making sure that they do kind of the same thing, but they are set up a little bit different. In on-screen takeoff, you have bid areas and you have zones. So on this page, the bid area is foundation. So all of this is set to the foundation bid area. But then I created pour 1 and pour 2 for my zones, and you can see that everything here is pour 1. Ooh, let me move that back over. And then everything here is pour 2. Now, you do also want to make sure that you kind of zoom in and make sure that these two boxes are touching. Make sure that we're not missing anything in between there. So I did zoom in real close and make sure that those boxes were as close as I could get to make sure I wasn't missing any of that takeoff. So I have my pour schedule. So for pour 1, pour 2. Now, when I go back to quick bid, in my bid areas, those zones come into quick bid just like a bid area. So now I have pour 1, and then you see that it has the foundation listed under that pour 1. So that's going to be like the parent bid area, and then the child bid area essentially is what those are set up as now. So I have my pour 1 and my pour 2. So if I wanted to only look at pour 1 and then run my reports, I could unselect everything else and only run pour 1. And I could get a purchasing report or stocking report, your bid summary, just whatever report you wanted to run based on that pour. And so that is going to give you the ability to choose those particular items. Now, I'm just going to select everything. Actually, you know what? Look, we'll do that by pour 1 just so we can see that real quick. And I'm going to hit preview there. And we're going to pull up here. So we've got our bid summary. So yeah, that one's going to be more for your full bid, but we're going to jump to our, all right, we got nothing in my, all right, let me close that out for a second there. And let me see what my options are here. All right, see why we're not getting any of our results there. And, oh, you know what? I got to make sure I'm on the right bid. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and preview those reports. And so now we're getting our, so we got our bid summary there, pull in all our information. Now this one is going to be broken down by areas. And then if we take a look at our, so the next one was just our purchasing report, all of our information there that we need to purchase. And then we got our stocking report. So just pulling all that information from our bid, looking at all the material, the labor, all those different details that we need for that bid, how we want to break that down. And then just real quick before we finish up here, just going to grab a proposal and go ahead and run just one of our template proposals here. We're going to run this by section and go ahead and choose a company here real quick, and we'll go ahead and click OK. And so that's going to run our proposal there. Sometimes it just pops up in the background. Just you kind of look for wherever your Word document pops up. So yeah, it's coming up on another screen here for me. Just give me a second to grab that, pull that up here, and so there we go. We have that run by each of those sections broken down. And then as we work our way down to the bottom, we've got all of our equipment, our other expenses added in there, and then we've got our bid total. Now, we didn't have any alternates or change orders, but if we did, we would have that information there as well. And then once that is run, you can modify those, make adjustments to this, just a Word document. So any adjustments that you need to make beforehand or afterwards, you can make there. So, all right. I feel like we had to kind of, scramble through 30 minutes is, not always enough time to get through everything in QuickBid just because there is so much, but thank you all for joining us today. Just want to point out a couple things we do have coming up. Check out our Bid Like a Boss sessions every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can see those other sessions coming up there. And then our next YouTube live sessions that we have coming up. So we'll be doing Takeoff Boost next month, and then we'll be taking a look at painting in June and July. And then we have classroom training in Minneapolis, Minnesota for our on-screen takeoff in QuickBid and PlanSwift. And then QuoteSoft is going to be in Kansas City. And then we also have classroom training in Phoenix in November coming up as well. So if you're interested in person, 2 full days of on-screen takeoff, 2 full days of QuickBid, talk to your account manager. They can get you details on registering for that. If you need more support, more questions that you have, need help with anything, we have our technical support that you can reach out to. Going to that How Do I in the Training tab, that creates a ticket for the training team. And then if you need to get into your custom training sessions, make sure to utilize those. And then if you have further questions, you can always reach out to the Academy team, academy@constructconnect.com. Do we have classroom training near Baltimore? We actually have one coming up in Washington, D.C., but that one is sold out already. That has been a pretty popular location, so we'll probably be back in D.C. In the future. But the one coming up is already sold out. So then hopefully, we'll have some more. But as of right now, we don't have any others scheduled in that area. Because we have the Minneapolis and then the Phoenix one that are scheduled right now. All right, that is all we have for today. So thank you all for joining and sticking around a couple extra minutes with us. But have a good rest of your day. And remember, construction starts here.